Thank you all for coming this morning, and I hope we have some ideas, new ideas that can inspire us to be better today. So may the good spirits be with us. So let's start. We're going to be talking about a very actual important topic today, which is humility. Before we start, let's take a look at the word humility. Humility comes from the dictionary, and as a noun is the quality or condition of being humble, modest opinion or estimate one's own importance, rank, etc. We're going to see that humility is much more than that. And we came across with an article, what is the opposite of humility? So we have two extremes. You can also be humble or you can be pride. Those are the opposite. Now, we came across with an article recently published in New York Times. And guess what? The science got interesting about humility. They have been studying it, the psychologists. It's a very interesting, that's the title of the article, Be Humble and Proudly, psychologists say. So humble it's cool to be humble, right? It's something that you have to be proud of it. They say much more than that. They say humility is not the boldest of personality traits, but it's an important one, studies find. And it's hard to fake. Science. We cannot fake. Maybe you say, I'm humble, but your actions, your words, is going to say otherwise if you're not. So even if you try hard, you cannot fake it, right? That's science. It's not me saying. Now, they also talk about something intellectual humility. It's not something about with your intelligence, coefficient of intelligence. That's something else. It has to do with the feelings, how you relate to the world. So they define this intellectual humility. Okay, so they talk a little more. That's the conclusion they get from the studies. A humble disposition can be critical to sustaining a committed relationship. It may also nourish mental health and broadly providing a psychological resource to check off grudges, suffer first patiently, and forgive oneself. See how many important things, it can be critical to sustain a committed relationship. You thought about keeping relationship would be forgiven, or be forgiven and forgive. But there is more. Humility also plays a role in this. And also, they say that nourishing mental health. Who knew, right? Be humble, it's good for mental health. That's science. Now, it helps you not hold grudges and forgive yourself. So let's continue. That's it. Now, it's good to have science on our side, explain today and study all about humility. But guess what? We've been talking about humility for more than 2,000 years. So Jesus was the one who brought this 2,000 years ago and put the humility as the main virtue that you have. You really have to work hard. But he wasn't always understood in his message. So we're going over this message brought by Jesus. In Matthew chapter 5, 1-3, the King James Version, we have, and seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. And when he was set, his disciples came unto him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So we needed to understand what Jesus means when they say poor in spirit. right? Because maybe we have an idea that being poor in spirit, actually the world in general has an idea that's poor in spirit. That's not the idea that's behind this message. That's the thing we're going to be talking today more deeply. If you go to the Gospel and chapter 7, what should be understood by the words poor in spirit? It means he who exalts himself shall be depreciated. So mysteries are hidden from the learned and wise. What is the meaning of this? So people today, they have a lot of knowledge, a lot of titles. Some of them, they are not humble enough to consider there is a God above it. They are not above everything just because they are intellectually, wise, or they have knowledge. That's why the message goes more for the people. They are humble, because people poor in spirits means have your heart believing that there is something else above you, something else that I can believe in that's run this place, right? Run the planet, run the universe, which is God. So the message that Jesus was trying to pass on was easier through the people who they were poor in spirit, rather than the people who were very knowledgeable. We're going to go over, in this chapter, is a very good chapter if you have the time to read it today after this. And if you go, the part that instruction from spirits, it talks about pride and humility and the mission of the intelligent person on earth. And there is this explanation given by Lacordaire. I cannot see my notes here, right? There's no way to see the notes. That's okay. I will try to remember. So, according to the Gospel according to Spirit, in chapter 7, 8 and 11, there is explanation given by the Spirit Lacordaire. Lacordaire was a bishop, and so he's and if you read it, he's the way he talks, because he was very religious. He was a bishop. That's how he talks. Right? That's because the spirit, they came to, Allan Kardec get all these messages. Lacordaire, one of the spirits that contributed with the Gospel according to Spiritism, and he brought this very wonderful, it's a long message, very long message, that worth reading it. We're going to read some excerpts from this message. He says, humility is a virtue much forgotten among us too. So if you have this book, which is Gospel according to Spiritism, it was written in the middle of 19th century, and if you see things today, it didn't change too much, right? These stills, importantly, these stills apply, right? We forgot humility, how important it is. So he tried to remember us. Of many examples given, very few have been followed. We have so many examples of people, they incarnate in this planet and they serve as an example, and we still have a hard time to follow or learn from them. We're going to be talking about some of them, right? Lacordaire also says, however, it is possible, he asks, it is possible to be charitable to your neighbor without being humble. What do you think? Is it possible? You be charitable and still be humble without being humble?
Sure.
You think it is possible? Well, Lacordaire says that is not. You know why? Because when you're charitable, you want to help someone and you are not humble, you are unable sometimes to help, or your help is not given from your heart, because you have to put yourself in the same level the person you are helping. You have to see this person as your brother and sisters, that you have to realize maybe it could be me in that situation. That's the humbleness. That when you put the same level, and then you are able to help with your heart, not only, materially speaking. Of course, anyone can, put in hands in your pocket and give money or give something material to help. But if you feel in your heart that person going through a hardship, and it could be you realize that could be me there in this situation, because we all go through situations in life, or not only this existence but other existence. So our help is not going to only be material, it's going to be also spiritual, because with the help we send much more, right? We send much more than that. So Lacordaire said, of course not, because this sentiment reduces mankind to the same level by telling them they are brothers and sisters who should help one another mutually, which leads them to a state of goodness. And if you are not humble, it is very hard to be in this mindset. Okay, is that okay? Do you think it's okay? This explanation is acceptable?
Are you asking me?
Yes, because you said no. You said yes.
I was dumb enough not to read the complete thing. I didn't pay attention.
Oh, okay.
Without.
It's kind of weird, this question, how they set up the question. Yes. So it makes sense, right? Does it make sense for you guys? Makes sense. Okay. Right. So, blessed are the poor in spirits, for theirs is the kingdom of God. That's how he talks about Lacordaire. Men of knowledge and imagination, so called by public conviction, generally hold such high opinions of themselves and their superiority that they consider everything divine as being undeserving of their consideration. By concentrating all their attention upon themselves, they are then unable to lift their eyes to God. What is the obstacle people having when they are in this situation? They cannot lift their eyes to God. They cannot recognize a higher power. What is going on with this person? What is holding this person back?
Their
Their
ego.
pride, right? Their very pride. That's why they cannot, consider that it's a higher power, right? No one will be admitted to the kingdom of God without what? Simplicity of heart and humility of spirits. Even the humble and the proud, we all one day are going to discriminate. That's our best. That's how our life is, right? How they gonna be received in the spiritual world? They're gonna feel the same as the humble and the proud. They're gonna feel the same when they discarnate. No. For God's eyes, we are all equal. We are all important. But their perception of life is gonna give them trouble when they pass over, because they're not gonna have, already like the humble spirits. They already know that they're expecting to be something else. So the proud one, all the things they achieved in life, this material world, they're very attached to this material, this vessel, very attached to the house, the things they have, the titles they accomplished. We are not saying they're important accomplishment. We're going to be talking about that. They are important, but they put so much importance to that it seems their life was only that, and their life is much more, the existence, and much more than that. So they're going to have, even, we all discarnate when you get to the spiritual world. Let's just say, which the word is one, but we sometimes, just to explain things, we say material world, spiritual world, but they're all the same. But just to, for the sake of explain things, when they get to the spiritual world, they're gonna have trouble to adapt themselves, because they believed something else. Their thoughts are something else, right? Now, what happened then? If you are humble, you are closer to God. But if you keep on pride, that makes away from God. And God is our source because He created us. So if you are humble, you are close to God, and if you are pride, you stay away from God. That's Lacordaire also explaining to us. Very good. So coming back, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Many were confused about whom Jesus had in mind when he referred to the poor in spirit. He did not mean to imply they were unintelligent. That's not the meaning. That's what some people read the scriptures and get the message wrong, because they interpret by words, not getting the meaning, real meaning for that. So Jesus meant to say that in order to enter the spiritual life on good terms, because everybody's going to enter anyways, a person must cultivate simplicity of heart and humility of spirit. That makes sense? Makes more sense now, right? Okay. And Allan Kardec, the future happiness. For humankind, then, there is far greater value for its future happiness by being poor in spirit, as the world would understand it and reach immortal quality. So we are here. This existence and this planet is like a school. So we're here to progress. The determinism, let's put this way, in this life, we're going to progress. And we progress in two wings. We have the moral progress and intellectual progress. Both are important. The problems today, that we have so many problems in the world, is our intellectual progress is up here. But the moral progress is still a little low. We need to, right? We need to get this up. Well, that's why we're here today, I guess. We're studying together and try to understand our essence, spiritual essence, and try to understand what is important in my life. My work is important, yes. Whatever you do that you have to be in the material world, it is important. But work on our flaws, work on our pride and other flaws that we have, it is also very important. So that's thing to remind us, because when we discarnate, when you have to go, what are you going to take with you, right? Think about it. So it's very important to take the time, like we have here, taking this time to think about it, to meditate about it. That's a very important thing to do. So we are doing right. We are doing okay. Well, we have some examples of humility. And the most example of humility you can find on the question 625 in the Spirit's book, when Kardec asked to the higher beings, what is the perfect standard that God has offered to humankind as a guide and a model? I think you know the answer because you guys studied, right? They say, look at Jesus. Guys, this is the shortest answer in the Spirit's book. They went like vehement, say, hey, look at Jesus, period. It's simple. Look at the Spirit's book. This is the shortest answer there. Right? So Jesus offered us, it's been more than 2,000 years, He's offered us His life and His teachings as examples. We're going over some of this. Before, Kardec makes some comment, very important comment. Actually, this comment is a little long, the answer is very short, but the Kardec's comment is long because it's very important, right? He says, Jesus is the highest standard of moral perfection to which humankind on earth may aspire. God offers him as the most perfect model, and the doctrine he taught is the purest expression of God's law because he was animated by divine spirit, and he was the purest being that has ever walked the earth. That's how important it is. Okay. There is this passage in the book you have here in the library, Our Daily Bread. In chapter 2, look at the title, think a little. Emmanuel says, Christ began the divine mission among countrymen, lived among angry doctors and rebellious sinners, joined the sick and afflicted, ate the hard bread of humble fishermen, and finished the holy task between two thieves. In a nutshell, right? That's the life of Christ. And sometimes we complain. We want things easier, right? He wants to things be easier for us. That's what the Christ has to go through to give his message, right? And we can see since the beginning, since he was born, he was showing us lessons on humility. Jesus was born in a manger. A manger at a time was something that to feed, I think it was in a kind of a barn, we could call barn, right? And this manger was to feed animals. That's what he was born. This is the first lesson of humility that Christ gave us. The only title Jesus accepted was Master, because he was much more than that. And his humbleness, his being humble and showing us a lesson of humility, he said, you can call me Master, but nothing else. That's the only title he accepted. The followers of Jesus were simple people. They didn't call people, right? They were fishermen. They were very, very simple people, uneducated people. They didn't call, they weren't perfect, by the way. They didn't call perfect people to be with him, or doctors in the, in the Old Testament, right? Jesus washes his disciples' feet, which was a very common tradition when you would go to a person's house, and the people, the servers of the house would wash your feet. Jesus put himself to wash their feet. This is another example. So humble while knowing your purpose. We have a bunch of people here. I'm going to show you. I think you know most of them, at least. I think it's more common from Brazilian culture, but we're going to be talking about other examples as well. Let's see if you can tell me the pictures from left to right. What is the first guy over there? Chico Xavier, and then Sister Dulce, Irmã Dulce, and then from antiquity, Socrates. Does someone know that lady? Yes. She was a Brazilian nun, and she was known for being very charitable. She took care of poor children and elderly. And then she moved to what is the name of the country? They have an earthquake. Haiti, where she died after many years. But she dedicated 40 years of her life doing charity. And every time I showed her picture, and like we have almost, I think, 20, 25 people here, Only one knows her. You see, she's unknown, and she did all that all her life. That's humbleness, right? I forgot. I tried to remember because I need to look at my notes. I was like, what's her name? But I will tell you after. I'm sorry that I don't remember her name. Zilda. Thank you. Zilda. Thank you so much. She worked, yes, she worked with the bishop in São Paulo and for many, many years, and then she moved to Haiti, and then the earthquake took her life.
She fought children's the kids were dying because no food.
Hunger.
So
Hunger.
created something that's to help them to keep them alive for longer.
You see, some people know her. That's her. Now we have more people here. What about now? I think everybody knows this one, right? Madre Teresa, and then Allan Kardec, and then Gandhi, and then French educator Pestalozzi, right? He was the French educator, and Allan Kardec was one of his students. If you study the life of Allan Kardec, you're gonna hear about Pestalozzi. And we have Nelson Mandela, which we're gonna have a little video showing Nelson interview, and we'll see this amazing man, the example of being humble. And then we have Saint Francis, the Brazilian doctor Bezerra de Menezes, and Joana de Angeli, the spirit Joana de Angeli. They're all examples. There are many more, of course. They're just a sample, and there are many, many more examples of humility that we have, and we continue to have, to show us, to remind us how important it is to be humble, right? Okay. So you passed the test because you guessed most of them. So A+.
That's the teacher.
Yeah, teachers. Yeah. I can help. So big in humility also was Chico Xavier. And there is this message from Emmanuel that I find very interesting. He says, humility is not in poverty, is not in indigency, or is not in scarcity, or nor hunger. These are not being humble. That's not about it. Humility is in a person who having the right to complain, judge, disapprove, and take an understandable attitude in personal pride. Instead of doing this, just bless. It's beautiful. I think it's kind of the idea in one thing. So we talk about humility, but what is not humility? We talk about some of them, right? Just to be sure, when you look at the mirror, what do you see? Do you see this little cute shape, like they look like an angel? What do you see when you look at the mirror, right? You buy with yourself. I mean, we're not always by ourselves, but you look at the mirror, what do you see, right? Okay. What is not humility? Is not to be subservient, is not servitude, is not submission, is not, fear. Fear is not weakness, is not omission, is not adulation, and it's not adulation, that's the last one. This is not humility, just to make sure that we don't mistake humility with something else. Okay, none of these it's related to humility. So if you think you're having, you look at the mirror, no, but I'm so like, I like to serve people, I'm very quiet, I take everything they'll say and say, that's not humility, right? There is this message from Emmanuel, because always here in Spirit Center, we say, we have to take the steps to be better. We have to do things to help our moral progress, right? And we find it, let's be sincere, we find it hard sometimes, right? We find it, oh my God, I was trying to be someone else this week, but I lost it with, at work, I lost it, my patient, and it starts to be a person that I don't like to be. It is hard, but look at the manual say, it is not, when it's not possible to advance 2 steps a day, we shall move forward at least a few millimeters. Let's translate millimeters, right? Which is not the metric system, and it's very little, right? It's 0.039 inch. So it's very little. What is it saying? So what is the word here that call orientation? Millimeters. So okay, if I not go 2 steps, at least something very small you can do it. And if you do this, which is less than an inch, much less than an inch, you're moving forward. That's important, right? So we don't get like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. I go to the spirit. Sometimes you get discouraged. I go to the spirit center, nothing changed. I read the books, but nothing changed. But you are changing. You are. We all are. Look at yourself at the beginning and look at yourself now. Something has changed, for sure. Right? Because those words from these books, they touched our heart. That's when we change. Right? Okay, I find out an article online that you are actually, how can I be, humble? What things I can do? And I found that there is humility in so many places that we didn't think about it. So that is this practicing humility. We can practice. That's encouraging, right? We can do today, take a notes, make a list of things we can practice. We can practice in 2 ways. You can practice humility, accepting your limitations. Or you can be humble, appreciating others, right? Let's go over some of this. I start with accepting your limitations, right? Admit that you're not the best at everything or anything. Sometimes we think we are the best. We are the best of the best, and there is also someone better than you. So be humble, right? You're not the best. Recognize your own faults. That's not showing weakness. When we recognize, I was wrong and I am sorry, you're being humble because you recognize your own fault. Another thing, be grateful for what you have, because sometimes we are not grateful. We complain a lot. That's the truth, right? Sometimes we start the day, before we do the prayer, we're already complaining about something. Right? So be grateful, because when you are grateful, you remind about God. All the things you have, you open your eyes in the morning. That's one more day that we should be thankful for. That's being humble. Recognize that. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Yes, we're going to continue make mistakes because we are humans after all. And we make mistakes, and recognize that it's a path to way to humility. Admit your mistakes and avoid bragging, right? Sometimes we like to, oh, I did this, I did that, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, and you don't listen the person in front of you trying to tell you something, but you're bragging about yourself, and lose this opportunity to listen, right? Which is very important. Listen to others, right? How about that? Move forward a little less, much less than a tenth of inch. Is it difficult? No, right? I don't think so. I think they're very easy steps. Be considerate in conversations. Sometimes in a study group, right? We have study group in Spirit Center. There is someone doesn't let anyone to talk. Okay, I want to make a comment, which is great. You have to make comments. It's great, but let other people also make comments, right? Let other people make comments. be considerate in conversations, any conversations. We appreciate others, appreciate the talents and qualities of others. You know, sometimes we don't. We have, even if we have people who serve us, you know, there's this person that goes to your place and deliver a pizza. Appreciate that. Appreciate that work, that person who was serving you. In other situations, stop comparing yourself to others. You don't have to compare yourself to others. Just compare to yourself, to your own, right? So be humble. Don't be afraid to accept others' judgment. Sometimes, you know, people came to you and say, you know, I think this and this and this. Well, listen to it. Meditate about it. Right? At least meditate and accept. Seek guidance from read text. I'm going to be biased here. Of course, I'm going to talk about the Spirit's book. We have plans, right? Of course, you can read anything else, but the Spirit's book, very good to read and seek guidance. Remain teachable. What is that? Some people say, I don't know, I don't want to learn anything else, I don't have to. Sometimes put yourself out there. There's some, you know, thing to learn. That's being humble. It's always something good that you can learn. Some activity, could be a hobby, could be another profession. You know, maybe you find yourself in this situation. Help others. We always encourage help. And go last, because sometimes we go, you know, there's this long line and you want to be last. You want to be the first one. Now ask yourself why. Why you want to be? Are you the center of the universe? No, this is not, this is proud calling, you know. It's disguised by, I want to be the first one. No, you don't have to be the first one. Maybe you can give your place to other people, right? That need it. Sometimes you in a line, behind you there is a lady with a baby, you know, holding a baby, another kid. Just okay, you can go in front of me, let the person goes. You know, those little tips for us to help us. And compliment others. Some people very hard to compliment, and you know, say, "Oh, you did a great job today." I like it when you're smiling. We go to the supermarket. I like you when you're here because you're always smiling. It makes me feel good. You're gonna make that person feel good too, right? And no to apologize. Some people very hard time to apologize. This is proud. Apologize. You know, I was wrong. I was out of line yesterday, so I'm sorry. It's good to, you know, to say something about that. And listen more than we talk, right? Because you may have to listen more sometimes. Now, before we go to that, I'm going to show you this interview with Nelson Mandela. We put him as an example of humility. He did this interview with Oprah a while ago, and you're gonna see how humble this man is. He's very inspiring person. Let's see. No sound?
No, I have to go to the other.
Okay.
No, I have to go there. That was the gossip. This was the
Yes.
Stop Pandora.
Yeah, you have to stop Pandora.
Okay.
Pandora is on Google.
Ooh. Oh,
Google.
that.
don't expect. Yeah, stop now.
Go to the slide.
I go. Don't worry about it. I can start from here.
Sound is good, right?
I think so.
How does a man spend 27 years in prison, put there by an oppressor, and come out of that experience with not a heart of stone, not a cold heart, but a heart that is willing to forgive and embrace? How is there no bitterness?
Well, I hated oppression. And when I think about the past, the type of things they did, I feel angry. You have a limited time to stay on earth. You must try and use that period for the purpose of transforming your country into what you desire it to be. And therefore you have to reject all negative feelings in your own soul, in your blood system, and focus your attention on the positive things. I wanted to be known as Mandela, a man with weaknesses, especially because I knew it was not the contribution of an individual which would bring about liberation and the peaceful transformation of the country. And my first task when I came out was to destroy that myth that I was something other than an ordinary human being.
I had said that you're one of the most humble person I ever met. I will tell you that when Mr. Mandela arrived today, he said to the producer, met with him in the room, and he said, "What is the subject of today's show?" And she said, "Nelson Mandela, you are the subject of today's show." He goes, "Oh, all right. You are not modest, but a very humble man." I wanted to ask, because I think that is the characteristic that stands out for you above all of them, that you are a peacemaker inside yourself. And how do we begin? Those of us who aren't leading countries, but are just leading our own lives, leading our families, come to a sense of truth and reconciliation with ourselves to be a peacemaker. How do you do that?
The first thing is to be honest with yourself. You can never have an impact on society if you have not changed yourself. And one of the most important weapons in changing yourself is to recognize that people everywhere in the world want peace. But humility is one of the most important qualities which you must have. Because if you are humble, if you make people realize that you are no threat to them, then people will embrace you.
Isn't it? He understood the message, right? How to be humble. It's nice. Now, well, I talked a lot, and you might forgot everything already, but take this home, right? At least this: the humble avoids in any way the ostentation or waiting for others to acknowledge the good works they are doing. He knows that the good is to be done without fanfare and in silence, thus destroying the altars erected in his vanity. That's what Mandela did, right? After he got out of prison. To be humble is to recognize our smallness in the face of the greatness of the universe, and to be fully aware that everything belongs to God. So that's our, sources, the books, if you're interested to read. And that's it. Thank you so much for having me. And I believe you have comments and questions, right?
We have a few minutes.
We have a few minutes if you want to make a comment. Could be a comment or...
I have a comment.
Yes.
I appreciate very much. Thank you.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
love the Talassi photo. I never noticed his face, so I
The what?
That's a lot.
photo.
Oh, the Pestalozzi?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. And also I would like to feel that sometimes, even though we are not humble the way we want to be, by practicing the charity that we believe we are attempted to do, the great way to get there.
Yes, the effort.
The effort to make, because
Yes.
sometimes people know to pride.